what's the simplest approach that will give you the most value and something that doesn't break your bank or anything that makes your life a bit easier to do? Path of least resistance always is the one that will always gravitate towards in general.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. My new best friend, Fawad, is here, and we are going to talk about regenerative medicine. Why do I need that? Well, have you started to feel any type of aging in your body where maybe your knee is starting to hurt or your back needs to be extra stressed in the morning before you feel like you can really get out of bed? These little pains are fixable, according to you. And so we're going to talk about how we can overcome some of these pains and prevent them from becoming chronic. Or if you're already in the chronic state, guess what? It's not too late. There are things that you can do. So Frod's here to help us take control of any pains that are coming in our body. But before we get started, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. When we come back, Frod, help me get rid of my pain. I'm looking forward to this. We'll be right back.
This is Adam Adams, co-founder of Optimized LLC, where we take the guesswork out of your health. If you're feeling exhausted, struggling with weight, or just not feeling yourself anymore, your hormones might be the problem. And that's why we test, not guess. Analyzing your blood work to pinpoint exactly what's holding you back. At Optimized LLC, we help you rebalance your hormones, boost energy, and reclaim your life. Don't settle for normal. Aim for optimized. Just go to optimized.com to book your free introductory coaching call. It's a free call to help you take the first step toward feeling your best.
All right. I held the information about you in the show notes. So let's really delve into this. Pain can be as simple as it hurts. My wrists hurt when I'm typing all day long, or my fingers just don't move like they used to move and it hurts. What can I do? How do I know where to even start?
Well, using the example you have with the hands and the wrists, say for instance, if that's something that has been going on for at least a couple of months, the likelihood of it getting better on its own is going to be few and far between then at that point. But when you start having the warning signals of when you feel like your hands are getting numb and tingly, and you feel like you're losing a little control of the function of your fingers a little bit because you're doing so much of it and you're getting numb, that's a warning sign to you, because in this particular instance, the nerves that are going through your wrist are getting compromised quite a bit. And by the time you feel it, roughly about 80% of the nerve fibers are starting to get compromised, where they're starting to get damaged there. And so that's kind of when you would really want to take a look into that. And, and for the wrist, it may be something as simple as changing things ergonomically at your workstation, say, for instance. How you're sitting, if you have like a wireless keyboard, wireless mouse sometimes can be very helpful in mitigating that. But there may be cases where there's some laxity of the joints, meaning the joints are loose, like in the wrist too as well. And when those are loose, sometimes we have to do regenerative treatments such as platelet-rich plasma, prolotherapy, or autologous stem cell therapies to try to help tighten that up, so that the nerves in the back over here don't get compromised too as well. But sometimes simple things that one can do, even if it's like a little bit of physical therapy and the different types of exercise they can do to try to help the nerve glide a little bit better, can be really helpful too as well. Another way I would approach just that one particular issue too as well is sometimes supplementation with certain things, and diet can make a huge difference. For many of us, we're not aware that some of the things that we're consuming on a daily basis can be very inflammatory to our body. For instance, just give you one example of individuals I've seen over time where, they consume milk every day, and they don't think twice of it. But ultimately, that could be something that's making the person achy, for instance. That's without directly testing things or whatnot. Or It could be somebody who's consuming a lot of bread and being exposed to gluten, say, for instance. That's a very common offender too, as well, and can make you feel fairly achy too, as well. And these things can also set off autoimmune issues in the body, and that a fancy way of saying that the body tries to go after itself and causes damage to different body parts, including your joints too, as well. And so a lot of times we'll look into diet too, as well, to see if that's something that really needs to be addressed. There's the entity of something called leaky gut, where the gut gets compromised from things that we consume or things we're exposed to, and it leads to more chronic damage in the body too, as well. So nutrition makes a huge difference. But these are just a couple of ways that we would really try to approach this for somebody. Say, for instance, if their hands and wrists were really hurting, ultimately. Um, but I think the other thing that also can sometimes be an issue from something like that is if the biomechanics of what you're doing when you're typing is pretty consistent, you're starting to have these problems. What often happens is, well, now the shoulder starts hurting, and now it's the neck that starts hurting, right? Because you've changed all of the mechanics of what you're doing, and you're putting your shoulder, your neck in a fixed position that's not supposed to be. So then over time, then it's something where we need to address the biomechanics of the shoulder and the neck too, as well, to try to get things better. And depending on the physical activity one does too, as well, whether or not they're very physically active, if you're doing exercise and you're lifting weights, or nowadays pickleball is like a big craze for a lot of people. It was in high school, one time in the 90s, and nowadays again, everything comes back. But using the paddle, playing tennis, those kinds of things sometimes can do wear and tear. If you're combining all these things together, we kind of have to look at these things to see what's the best way that we can try to do things with the activities that we're doing, so we don't get into the place of having chronic pain, having chronic damage too, as well. And if this is something that's really been lingering for many months on end, that's kind of when we really have people come in and say, hey, look, we need to take a look at this more. Whether or not, we do an ultrasound, we do an MRI, a good physical examination. We got to see, where areas of damage are, and we can see what biomechanics we can fix and how dietary wise we can try to fix somebody too, as well.
I think the most things I hear someone complain about,
Mhm.
shoulders, definitely,
Uh-huh.
lower back, knees,
Yeah.
and I would say chronic migraines. Those are the pains I hear the most about from coworkers and stuff.
Right.
Like I'm not doing the stairs, that hurts my knees, or I'm not
Mhm.
lifting that, it hurts my back.
Mhm.
So are these easy things to resolve, or do they take whole dietary changes? And I'm not that I said that like it's, oh, that's too hard. But sometimes it feels like an overhaul when you're changing your diet. Um,
Yeah.
or, I talk about wrists. I think that was the other thing that we heard a lot about people with
Mhm.
whatever, carpal tunnel.
Mhm.
And I
Sure.
remember I thought I had carpal tunnel, and somebody talked me into trying a magnet. And you talked about how it how it moves around. I remember putting the magnet on my wrist,
Mhm.
and slowly I chased that pain up my arm to my shoulder, where I found the originator spot. But
Mhm.
it moved. It just kept moving up. Like it would fix where the or the original pain was, but it wasn't fixing the cause until I got clear up to my back.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, speaking to like the things that we would normally see, like in our office, say for instance, probably the most common things would be migraines, neck pain, low back pain, knee pain, and shoulder pain, by far. Um, so when I talk about, you mentioned diet. When I talk about diet, of course, we could always do the massive overhaul, but the likelihood of somebody continuing with that beyond half a day or a day is next to nil for most people, because a lot of those things are ingrained behaviors and habits that we have. And so when we talk about diet, sometimes it's just starting maybe with one thing. What's one thing you can do to change? Maybe it's stopping dairy. Maybe it's getting gluten out of the diet. Um, for some people, hey, they can even react to things as innocuous as like kale and strawberries. There are many ways to test this out as well, but I always try to say, hey, what's one, maybe two changes we can do in the diet that may be helpful. And that becomes a little bit easier for somebody once it's just, hey, we know maybe there's one small thing that we can change and can make a huge difference. Um, and you mentioned, with exercise and all that. A lot of times I'll tell people, look, you don't have to be going out and running 5 miles a day, 3 miles a day. You don't have to lift weights like Lou Ferrigno or Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day or anything like that. But for some people, I tell them, look, you're not really doing much exercise. Ultimately, what happens as the muscles begin to atrophy over time because you're not stimulating them, there's increased fatty deposition into your muscles. So things become progressively weaker. Things will hurt because now you don't have the stability around the knees. And so for some people, I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe it's just getting on a recumbent bike where you're sitting and pedaling for a little bit to try to work on things so that your knees don't hurt so much. Maybe it's doing uh, maybe at the gym, if doing some leg extensions of some sort with very, very lightweight or no weight at all to try to help stimulate some of those muscles too as well. For some people, it's, well, what if we just got our shoes on, our workout gear, and we tried walking maybe for like a couple of minutes or 5 minutes or so? It's just a small little change that I try to get somebody to do and then build momentum off of that so that they can start doing progressively more and more and more without making it sound like it's a giant chore for somebody just to, go exercise, go change your diet or whatnot. Because let me face it, it's a tough thing to do. And to convince somebody otherwise, if they've been doing things for years on end the same way, is quite difficult. So sometimes we just got to find that one small little bit to help nudge them like in the right direction. And I'm always, even patients that don't do regenerative treatments in my office and see me for neurological issues, things like that, we're always just trying to find what's one small thing that we can do to help move the needle on them. Migraines, as you mentioned as well, are also very common things too as well. Again, ergonomic, we'll go through many different things with people. We always tell people, look, the head is really the victim out of all of this because usually it's something else that's causing the problem, whether it is a dietary issue or it's bad ergonomics, it's lack of exercise. Maybe you're sleeping awkwardly too as well. For women, it could be hormonal too as well. Can be birth control related too as well. Can be injuries that we're doing, or for people who are like lifting weights and lifting them properly too as well. Can be gut related issues. There's so many things that go into that. And so we're always trying to look, well, what is the root cause? How can we get this better? More often than not, once we look at things, we also get people on supplements. For instance, one thing that I think is very valuable for people who do have migraines is taking magnesium. There are many different types of magnesiums that one can take, and the quality of what you take actually makes a huge difference in terms of how you feel. Years ago, I would tell people, go get whatever you want from wherever you want. Problem with that is that you would find either the quality of what they're taking really is not doing a whole lot or cause more side effects. So usually there's a handful of places where I'll tell people to go, but the type of magnesium can definitely make a huge difference too as well, in even mitigating somebody's headaches and migraines. Um, what's often overlooked too as well, that people could have neck issues that are causing their migraines too as well. And we've been able to prove that we've been able to do certain treatments in the neck too as well, or even like do diagnostic nerve blocks under ultrasound. And we're able to eliminate people's migraines for at least a couple of days or a week or two. And I feel that's the best I've felt in a long time. Like, okay, that's where it's really emanating from. So maybe if we did things such as platelet-rich plasma, so for example, we try to help stimulate and tighten everything and try to make the vertebrae more stabilized, and that would help eliminate the headaches and the migraines too.
Okay. So by understanding the pain,
Hmm.
and you can chase back maybe where the cause is coming from instead of just making the pain go away. Like the cause might be your gut, might be your hormones, might be whatever. And you
Right.
are able to help balance that part of our bodies to
Hmm.
help reduce the pain or eliminate it.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's completely different than if you went to your doctor's office because they're going to be, oh, here's this anti-inflammatory. Have a nice day.
You
That's
know,
that's that's kind of what people get, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I've gotten that one before. I even have migraine pills,
Mhm,
for those times where it's too late, it's already here.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
But, when you're thinking about it, at one time I followed the thing called the Virgin diet, and it just eliminated all the anti-inflammatories.
Mhm.
And then you were allowed to reintroduce them one at a time back. It was
Right.
pretty tough. I mean,
Mhm.
giving up those 11 elements and like, how can you go without sugar? How can you go without gluten? How can you go without dairy and eggs and peanuts and soy? And you start reading labels, and everything has an inflammatory, not an
Mhm.
anti one.
Yeah.
So it's like how, and I found mine was a combination. If I
Mhm.
had dairy and sugar at the same time.
Right.
Now, if I have them separate, I'm okay. So if you're
Mhm.
doing a single elimination, how would you
Mhm.
know if it was a combination of two things?
I mean, in this day and age with processed foods, it's sometimes very, very hard to do that. And yeah, if you're reading the label, you'll find that there's sugar disguised in the ingredients somewhere. Um, I think that's quite challenging, but obviously you're looking for the cleanest possible thing that you can utilize, right? So, I mean, ice cream, like for instance, like if you're eating ice cream or whatnot, it's going to have sugar in it of some sort. It's going to have dairy, clearly, unless it's made out of something else or whatnot. Um, but I just have to say, people have to really just work on their due diligence and really looking at the labels and trying to do the best they can with that ultimately. But the other way, conversely, of like looking at that too as well is, what if we ate stuff that was just not processed in general? Kind of how, I mean, not trying to go back to like where I was, like, growing up in the 70s and the 80s, there was still processed food galore, but people tended to be a little bit healthier because people were moving a bit more. But um, I think if, we're even able to just eliminate one particular thing, so even if it was sugar for somebody, anything that does have sugar, really just go after it, regardless if it has dairy or not in it or something else.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, because then you're still feeling better because it's not the combination. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so what would we do? I mean, are you the only person in the world, or how do I find out how to do this?
Well, I mean, I'm not the only person in the world, but there are many people here. Well, it really depends, so I think when I kind of view things a little bit differently where I try to blend in multiple things together, for we do the PRP treatments and the stem cell treatments, and those involve ultrasound guided injections, but we try to look at everything in totality and we're trying to do more and more of that. There are other doctors around in different states that do that. It's not like I'm the only one. There are other people that are out there. It's just you kind of have to look around, do your due diligence, research a little bit to see, what would be the right fit for that individual, no matter what state you're in, whether you're on the West Coast, East Coast, or the Midwest, or down south.
Well, when it gets chronic, you'll go anywhere to get it fixed. So,
Yeah, some
uh,
people will for sure. Yeah.
like just make it stop.
Hmm.
So, is there anything that you seem to that helps for everybody? I mean, is this making sure you're drinking enough water, eating clean? Is there something that is common that can help everybody feel a little better?
Yeah, I mentioned one of them. Actually, magnesium. Magnesium is involved in hundreds of enzymatic reactions in your body. It's something you need. But it can help you definitely if you're feeling kind of achy or if you have had eggs. Different magnesiums can help you sleep, can help reduce anxiety too as well. I think it's a pretty ubiquitous thing, and I tell a lot of my patients to utilize it on a frequent, no matter what. I mean, for many different reasons that I just listed. Um, for the most part, provided somebody doesn't have a contraindication, meaning a reason not to. Say, for instance, if somebody has really bad kidney issues, because then they're not going to filter it out very well. It's a fairly safe thing to take, and the dosages that are out there over the counter, no matter where somebody gets it, is like within a safe range where nobody's running into any issues. So I can safely say that that's something that can be quite helpful for a lot of people in general. Um,
When it comes to magnesium, recently, it's like you got to take the right magnesium.
mhm,
And I'm just off the top of my head, I can't even think of. I think gluten might be one of them, but it's like
mhm.
there's all these different kinds. How do I know which one I need, or do I just need them all?
Well, it depends on what well, that's also the point of actually seeing somebody too as well could kinda direct you a little bit better. It depends on the individual's problem, but, you know, it so, for instance, like a glycinate malate preparation is one that we use in the office a lot, and that can help with feeling achy, sleep, and people feeling anxious all at the same time. You know, there's a magnesium threonate, which is another one that sometimes will help with anxiety and also neurological issues to a certain extent as well. There's a little interchange between all of them, but I think those combos tend to be a bit better than something like magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate. And to make that a little bit easier to understand, that's what you find over the counter at a typical pharmacy or a typical grocery store that one would go to. And those are much better at helping you, for lack of a better word, you know, use the bathroom a bit easier. And those are great for that particular purpose, but I don't tell people to get those ones usually. I find that they're also less bioavailable. I even had this conversation with a pharmacist years ago about it. And she was the one that kind of started telling me more about the other types of magnesium. I'm talking about over 12, 13 years ago. Because at the time I was just telling people to use whatever was over the counter and realized that there's a lot of nuance to all of this. But, you know, the ones I kind of mentioned are common ones that people can utilize fairly safely.
Yeah, I used to travel with magnesium
Mhm.
specifically because I'd get constipated while I was gone,
Mhm.
and it just let it not do that.
Yeah, it's good at doing that.
Okay, so what else can we do? It sounds like, just eating clean and figuring out what's are inflammatory would be a good, easy first step. Well, not
Mhm.
easy, but a first step that's doable without racking up a bunch of medical bills. But if I get past that, if I can't do it on my own,
Mhm.
then I can call you.
That's how I approach everybody. It's kind of what's the simplest approach that will give you the most value and something that doesn't I mean, something that ideally doesn't break your bank or anything like that, and that makes your life a bit easier to do. Everybody always, you know, path of least resistance always is the one that we'll always gravitate towards in general. But yeah, I mean, it does come a lot to, well, how well are we sleeping? How well are we managing our stress? What kinds of things are we eating? Are we exercising? Exercise is really, really important as we get older because, you know, let's face it, after 40, we start losing muscle mass and then, you know, we keep losing a lot more as each decade of life passes too as well. So if we don't exercise, those little aches and pains that you kind of had get progressively worse over time. And then that leads to bigger issues. And then that does lead to seeing the doctor and then getting different treatments for everything too as well. As basic as all of this stuff really sounds, it's really important, but it's also important to implement this in our life too as well. And then again, even with the small changes from the diet, the exercise, the sleep, and the stress, it goes a very long way. And then sometimes even adding in some nutritional things and supplements here and there can be very helpful to help mitigate all of that. So I think that that's also really important. But I think what's also really important is having other people around you that can help support you in trying to do this too as well. Because there's some people who just try to do it on their own. You know, they're trying to go to the gym and trying to exercise, but then, hey, the ice cream truck is out there. Everybody's getting ice cream, and you know they have a hard time with the willpower. It's kind of like if you have friends or family that can help you or support from somewhere that really kind of helps propel you forward more. It's almost like an accountability partner to a certain extent. And that's going to help you more in terms of improving yourself if you didn't have any of that. So having that network is really important.
At one time I gave up nightshades because hoping that it would get rid of some of the pain and stuff in my body.
Yeah.
And I remember someone saying, "You can't eat tomatoes?" And I went, "Oh, I can. I choose not to."
Hmm.
Because I didn't want to feel forced.
Right.
It's like, what can I do with my brain to know that this is my choice, not my have to, or I
Hmm.
can't. And
Hmm.
so I just like, yeah, I can. I'm just choosing not to. Or
Hmm.
when the donuts would come into the office in the morning, it's, well, I choose not to have one
Hmm.
instead of saying I can't or I don't, It's like if I said I don't want one, I would have been lying. So why not say I'm choosing not to have one?
Yeah, no, that's right. It takes a lot of willpower to do something like that, and, even for me, who is somebody who has had a sweet tooth since I was young, now as I've gotten older, I'm like, "Nope, can't do that." Or if I'm gonna have anything, it's gonna be such a tiny bite. You get the satiation, like, "Okay, I had this. Okay, it was good for that small little bite, and that's the end of it." And not consuming the rest of it or giving it to my kids and letting them enjoy whatever it is that they're eating, really then at that point.
I think some of us might be sugaraholics. We have a
Mhm,
little bit and it's like,
mhm,
"Oh my gosh, I need more." And you
uh-huh,
consume a lot more than you thought you were going to. Like, it's not just a half a candy bar or just a half a bite. I gotta eat the whole thing.
right, 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 'cause, our mothers always told us to finish our plate kinda thing.
It's mom's fault. It's all
Yeah,
her
it's
fault.
yeah, so, I mean, even for me, I can tell you, like, one sheet that I have is, it's like dark chocolate, but it's like 75 to 80% cacao, so it's a little bittersweet then at that point, and it's just so small. If I have that maybe once or twice a week, I'm like, "Okay, I'm good." And so I don't need to really go after everything. So I think the other thing for some people is, depriving yourself of anything and everything can be quite difficult. And so if somebody had something like a little bit here or maybe once in a blue moon, I think is perfectly fine as long as it's just not a routine habit that somebody's doing constantly.
I found that those dark chocolate chips that were sugar-free and coconut. It's like, I'm eating these together because it sounds like almond joy. I mean, Mounds, right? Because it's the one without the almond.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like if you find something, but then I found a whole dang bag of chocolate chips,
Mhm.
and that doesn't help, even though it's dark chocolate.
Mhm.
Eh,
Yeah, no, I think again, yeah, it's just kind of working on, just small little bits here and there. But it's sometimes it's like, oh, you have it once, kind of like a potato chip. You need to have more kind of thing.
what was the commercial? You can't eat just one. I find that with sugar things for me. That's why I choose to not eat it at all.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
So, is there anything else? Like, I know one thing that I like to do is stretch. It makes my achy body feel better.
Mhm,
Not just exercise, but just stretching out the area that's tight
mhm,
and sore. And I don't know what originated the pain. Maybe it was
mhm.
the tightness in the first place, but it
Right.
just seems to relax it. Is there any science behind stretching and pain?
I mean, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword with that. I mean, stretching is great, and keeping your flexibility is really important too as well. But it doesn't ultimately address the pain generators, but at least will give you some of that temporary relief ultimately. Um, so getting taking care of muscle imbalances can be important. But things like yoga, Pilates, those kinds of things can be quite helpful because it's getting you to stretch and it's getting you to try to work on certain muscles to strengthen them too as well. Pilates actually can be a little bit of work, and I've had a lot of people and patients tell me over the years, yeah, they're like, yeah, I did Pilates and the muscle imbalances that I had and some of the aches and pains got better. That's because they got addressed by doing something like that. So that makes a huge difference. So I think that'd be a little bit step up beyond stretching. But yeah, thing is we can stretch the muscle out until it's elongated enough, but still the pain generator may not be treated. But that doesn't mean that one could not do it to at least give you some temporary relief.
That makes sense because it was temporary. It always came back.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Is there anything like in your knees or your back that you would suggest? Somebody once told me just do more sit-ups, your back pain will go away. I don't know if that's true because I didn't do the sit-ups, but
Mhm.
is there anything like that, if I have migraines all the time, do I want to just raise my monitors to see if not looking down all the time? I mean, is there any little tricks like that that could help us possibly get rid of some of these?
Yeah, I mean, I think ergonomics for people who have headaches or migraines, quote unquote. So a lot of times what I'll do is tell people, look, if you have a laptop, make sure it's elevated so that it's at eye level. Get a wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, and have it closer towards your lap. Because and then at that point, it's just you're free and easy moving your hand and your arm as opposed to being up on the computer doing this or doing that. Because that's ends up being the ergonomics really affect your hands, your head, and your neck, and all of that, and can perpetuate a lot of people with the headaches and migraines. So I definitely have them try to work on those things. And sometimes it'll be even just you mentioned the stretches. Sometimes I'll give them some basic stretches where they're kind of, stretching out their traps. If they kind of put their head back and do this, kind of stretching out part of their traps or putting their arm behind their back and then kind of having their head kind of come forward. So that stretches the muscle between your shoulder blade, which goes all the way up into your head and your neck. There are bundles of nerves over here. Sometimes they could get irritated and actually cause referred pain and headaches or migraine type headaches in people.
So
So those
just moving your ear towards your shoulder with
well,
a little.
actually, it would be actually just, pulling your head back like this, kind of closer towards a little bit further back so that's more in plane with your shoulders, and then kinda coming back to the other side so that you feel that stretch and you're trapped there.
Okay, so a little bit looking up and pulling your ear towards your shoulder
Yeah.
blade.
Right, so it's just
Okay,
kinda back and going across. It's a typical, like, PT thing people would do. And then the
okay.
second one is putting the arm behind their back and that and then kinda bringing your head forward and across so that stretches out the muscle that goes from your shoulder blade up into your head and your neck.
So putting the ear towards your clavicle this time.
Yeah, towards the clavicle, or you can kind of pull down closer to looking down towards the knee
Oh, okay.
on the opposite side, so that'll help.
So that's just giving stretching both directions. Then do you just switch and do it the same on both
Uh-huh.
sides, or does it matter where your headache's at?
I mean, I have people do it on both sides in general. For some people, it's pretty unilateral. It may even be like the dominant hand that's using the mouse and keyboard. Let's say, for instance, but if we can the more we can increase a little bit of range of motion and movement, the less achy and less headachy somebody's going to be ultimately.
Okay. So little things you could do for headaches: stretch the neck as we spoke. I'm not going to repeat it. Raise your monitor or laptop up enough,
Mm.
and wireless keyboard so it's more to your lap, not up high on a desk.
Right.
All right. Those are some simple things to try. So what about back pain?
For back pain, I think a lot of that is going to have to do with a little bit more work, but it's actually just trying to strengthen the core. One simple, I mean, I wouldn't call it too simple, but one way that one could even try to attempt doing something like that is if you get like an exercise ball, and while you're doing your work, you're able to sit on that exercise ball because that's going to engage your core muscles over here. Because the back needs support from a lot of different structures, and that's going to be our abdomen. It's also going to be the buttocks, the hips, and the muscles, and the legs, and all that. Everything works as a girdle and kind of holds everything together. Because when these things are all weak, the back will go every which way. Then at that point, and that's when when the vertebrae start slipping a little bit, discs start popping out a little bit too as well. But something as simple as sitting on an exercise ball, if one is able to, can certainly be very helpful to help stimulate that core and start helping with the back ultimately.
I
And
worked at a place that did not allow you to switch out your chairs.
mhm,
You had to use their chair, but I had a doctor's note, so they had to let me bring in my ball.
mhm, yeah,
So yeah, there is a way around it.
oh, that's good if one can do that. But yeah, but that would be probably one of the simpler ways without telling somebody, look, I mean, let's work on some planks, things that can be, to try to really engage that core a little bit.
Okay. And then what about knees?
Knees are going to come down to a lot of like muscle control too as well. So for knees, probably going to need to. I mean, some of the best things for knees is honestly, even if it does ache a little bit, is still trying to walk a little bit and then increasing that like over time too as well. Um, Simple thing that one may be able to do at home without wanting to get a gym membership if they want to do this a little bit easier is you can always get some ankle weights And even if you were sitting in a chair, you can do some leg extensions. You can even get on your own bed or wherever you are at home, and then also have the ankle weight, and then also do some hamstring curls that way. So it's really important to have the muscle balance between two sets of muscles so that it supports your knee ultimately.
Okay.
And if somebody is able to over time, and then their knees don't hurt too bad, they can always do a little mini squats like in their chair too as well.
I think we covered all those most commonly complained about pains in the workplace.
Mhm.
Is there any others you can think of?
No, I mean, even then, like, I mean, the stuff we mentioned about like even like the neck and then the wrist and all that, that would even help with quite honestly, like the shoulders too as well. Shoulders are just abused because of many different things from things we carry, handbags, for women too as well. How we sleep sometimes too. And so when the shoulders become more rounded, kind of coming forward, ergonomics, the stretches and all that can really be helpful. But another thing that I also found very helpful is, if you have that same exercise ball you're using for your back, you can always lay on it, let your arms fall to your side. That's going to help open up the muscles over here a little bit and allow things to drop down a little bit more than at that point. So that
Yeah.
actually would actually help with the shoulder pain.
Okay. That was exactly what I was just going to ask. So
Mhm.
that helps with shoulder pain.
Uh-huh.
And that's just that opening up your chest and letting the weight of your arms um, go towards the ground, laying on the ball with your back in the middle,
Mhm.
and just letting gravity just stretch that
With
out.
yeah.
That's fun. I think this is good. So it's not help. You're not. It's not a death sentence. It's not a pain sentence.
Mhm.
It's a reminder to take care of your body so that it can keep going longer. And the sooner you catch it, the easier it is going to be to fix. And
Yeah.
most of us, at least I did, I waited till I was in the hospital
Mhm.
before I made a change.
Uh-huh.
And we don't have to do that, but for some reason, a lot of us do.
Yeah.
We're indispensable until we're dispensed of.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. And, sometimes it takes like a major life event for people to turn it around, but, I see enough stuff as it is where, look, I'm looking at myself and if something's going on, then I'm like, "Oh, I gotta make this change now because 'cause I'm starting to notice this and I need to get this treatment or maybe I need to work on this to get things better so that I'm not like not in the wrong boat, in years to
Mhm.
come from now." So, um, better to start that, earlier on than waiting till you're all the way down at the end where it becomes a little bit tougher and then trying to climb out of it.
Yeah, the further away from the shore you get, the harder it is to get back, or the longer it takes to get back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's that I just taken that boat part.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I've loved our conversation. I think it will be very helpful for people to at least go, hey, there is something we can do out there. There's more than just dealing with the pain and taking anti-inflammatories or pain medicines. So why don't you share how to get a hold of you, a little bit about yourself, and what's that one thing? With all the things we talked about
Mhm.
today, what's that one thing you would suggest we try this week?
I would say the one thing I would try is, let's go out, get a little exercise, go for a walk. Start. If you haven't started, now's the time to start. Look, really, even there are even folks where it's like if you could just get your workout gear on and your shoes, and get yourself in that mindset. Even if you didn't walk that one day or whatnot, at least now, hey, we've got a little momentum. So then the next step is get out the door, go for a little bit of a walk if it's possible at all. Exercise and movement can heal the body, get your body to feel better ultimately so that you don't have to live your life in pain ultimately. Um, I, in my particular story, I had a lot of injuries from my shoulder to my knee, back. And I got into regenerative medicine because of that, because that's how I was able to fix myself, along with all of the things we just talked about today, with the exercises, the stretches, the holistic treatments too, as well. That's what it took for me to get out of the pain and trying to undo traditional medical therapies like steroid injections, which end up which, obviously are not good for joints because they eat away at joints, ligaments, cartilage, and all that. And so for me, as a journey from being a board certified neurologist to doing regenerative medicine over 13 years ago, it's allowed me to be able to help a lot of people that have walked into the office avoid things like drugs and surgery ultimately, and giving them alternatives where they feel like there was no alternative then at that point.
I love it. So how do we get a hold of you if we're like, hey, we need you to help me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can easily be found at prolohealing.com. That's our website. Has email over there, also phone number. One can contact us, kind of go through the website, learn a little bit more about what we do. And we're always more than happy to help anybody who needs it ultimately. So we definitely welcome that.
Sounds great. And that link's in the show notes. So you should be able to just jump down there and get it. So I really think this has been fun. Thank you for joining me. Friend, I am not a medical or mental licensed professional, just someone here that wants to see you get down your path without any pain, just joy and happiness. So thank you for joining and stay tuned for our next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss a next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.